me the magic word. I don't know what it is, but give me a word.
Environment.
Environment.
Yeah. Class action lawsuit. No.
Okay, you're good.
Thank you. Welcome again to the November 3rd, 2021 meeting of the CB6 Environment and Parks Committee. My name is Kevin O'Keefe, and I am the chair of this committee. This meeting is called to order at 7:03 p.m. New York time. Tonight, we are joined by Community Associate Alexandra Crawford and District Manager Jesus Perez. Members of the public, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature on Zoom. Now, if there's time following the committee's discussion, we will field questions from the public. Raj has volunteered to take minutes tonight. Thank you, Raj. We will now take attendance by roll call, and the aforementioned Alexandra will conduct this roll call.
Media members, I will call your name and you will unmute yourselves. When your name is called, please say present. I will announce if there is quorum. Marty Barrett.
Present.
Matt Bondi. Matt Bondi. Claire Brennan.
Present.
Jeannie D'Onofrio.
Present.
Paige Judge. Paige Judge. Anton Malner.
Present.
Rajesh Nayar. Raj?
He's busy taking minutes.
Here.
Okay.
You lost me for a second. I'm taking the minutes.
Okay. Kevin O'Keefe.
I'm here.
Reshma Patel.
Present.
Dean Stephanides.
Present.
Mark Thompson.
Present.
And Maura Wong. Okay, we have quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office, and it appears on the screen. And coming up, there we go, right there. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting this agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Don't see any objections, so the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. Now, the minutes from the October 5th committee meeting were distributed ahead of time. If there is no objection, we will adopt these minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting these minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Seeing no objections, the minutes from the October 5th meeting are adopted and will soon be available on the CB6 website. Now, in order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. Oh, that's some feedback there. Are we okay on that, Alex? I think we're good. There are 5 rules. Number 1, no one may speak until granted the floor. Number 2, committee members, if you have a question about committee business, or if you wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. 3, the chat function should never be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having, or to state in writing information, for example, an email address, that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. Number 4, when a committee member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. 5th and last, we are required by New York state law to have a transcript of this meeting. So please keep your questions and your comments succinct and germane to the discussion. And I will try to do the same. Agenda item number 1 is discussion of mitigation of stormwater flooding on streets and subterranean infrastructure. This is something we brought up at the last meeting. I will report that we are still doing preliminary committee research on this initiative. And unless there are any questions on this subject, we can table our discussion until the next meeting. I also have a offer out to a committee member to serve as the deputy on this project. And I'm also waiting to formalize that before we move forward. So I will ask if there's any questions. I'll look for hands, and any members of the public, you certainly are also welcome. I see there's a couple of things in Q&A. And I think, Alexander, you'll keep me honest if there's any questions in Q&A that you feel we need to address. I want to make sure we give everybody the floor. All right. So I will assume that those Q&As are about something else. And we will move on to agenda item number 2, which is discussion of other community environmental needs. Now, today we learned that the state ballot proposal, we were just talking about this, the ballot proposal on environmental rights is on its way to passage. I'm looking now with about 60% of the votes now reported, 65% have voted in favor of this measure. Now, the environmental rights passage will add the right to clean water, clean air, and a healthful environment to the New York State Constitution's Bill of Rights. New Yorkers will now have an enforceable right to all of those. This will require lawmakers to consider the impact on clean water, clean air, and the environment when making decisions. It also allows New Yorkers to sue if they believe their rights to clean water, clean air, or a healthful environment are being violated. Now, as part of this milestone for New Yorkers, I would like us to start to understand more of what community groups in our district, and when I say community groups, I mean formalized community groups in our district, see as their priorities in regards to environmental issues. To this end, at each monthly meeting, I would like to schedule at least one community group to speak for up to 4 minutes, and for the committee to then have a discussion about each community's group's concerns. One of the most important things we do as a committee and members of this committee is to amplify the voices of those who engage with the district in matters of environment, parks, and the 2 other areas that we have in our scope, cultural affairs and landmarks. Now, we're going to start this tonight with the Murray Hill Neighborhood Association, MHNA if you prefer, which actually has a Green and Clean committee. Now, the chair of that committee is Michael Ann Rowe. Now, I know the association has issues with allegedly unneeded tree beds or tree guards, if you will, that are boarded up around various construction sites in the Murray Hill area. These boxed areas then turn into garbage receptacles. So let's give Michael Ann the floor for 4 minutes to present with questions and comments to follow. And it's our pleasure to welcome you to this committee.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really, really thrilled to be here. Can you hear me? You were stagnated there for a second, but I just want to make sure you can hear me.
Yeah, I think just
say that again.
Go ahead.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. My name is Michael Ann Rowe. Yes, I'm the chair of the Green and Clean Committee for the Murray Hill Neighborhood Association, and proudly so. I was with the business committee, but I went over since COVID, I decided I needed to do something to make a real seeable difference. And so I went over to Green and Clean, took over that committee to really, it's a reaction to the pandemic and the homeless situation in Murray Hill. So started that campaign, Keep Murray Hill Clean, last December, gave out 100 cleanup kits, and we've got some great volunteers that go out on a regular basis to clean up around the neighborhood. Not sure if many of you know that Murray Hill turned 60 years old, the anniversary of the Murray Hill Neighborhood Association in 2020. It is historic Murray Hill, and we would certainly love to preserve it and making our environment safe and clean, a place to come and explore, raise a family, do activities, and especially do business. But with that, we would like to be included in decision-making like this meeting. Thank you very much. And to peel that onion back a little bit more, inclusion on decision-making when it comes to shelters of the kind of shelters and management of the shelters, the quality of life, the noise, construction, preservation of historic Murray Hill, and especially Green and Clean. I'd like to see the master plan for this CCC, Clean Core City. Besides hiring people, where are those dollars going for the infrastructure to make our environment safe and the greenest and cleanest city in the nation? As the chair of the committee of the Green and Clean Committee, I'd like to be in contact with the managing person for this fund and have a voice in our needs in historic Murray Hill. Overall, what we are noticing is a lack of communication between departments. For example, but I am pleased to let you know that over the last 6 to 8 months, we have been in more communication with Keith's office. And today we just did a walkabout to show him some of the messes with construction and these tree guards that you talked about there for a second, Keith, Kevin, and in which we are seeing real communications, real reactions from Keith's office and real things getting done. I need more of that. But for example, of the lack of communication is a perfect example is the Parks Department with the construction department. We cannot get those two on board with this old aged rule that these trees need to be surrounded by these wooden structures that have ultimately caused hazardous garbage in the tree beds and doing more harm than good. Some of them have died. There's a couple of trees I noted even today that have died because of these wooden tree structures. And so I'm trying to get to the real reason why this has all been happening. I'm hearing different examples, different reasons, but we want them removed as soon as possible because they are an eyesore and they become hazardous to the neighborhood. The other thing I'd like to mention is the noise level. Where's the management on cars zooming out of the tunnel? It's 37th Street with boom boxes raging with music. This is happening on a regular basis and with no mandate on fines to these drivers. This makes our environment feel very unsafe and very disturbed in historic Murray Hill. One of the ideas in many, one of the ideas for Murray Hill and many neighborhoods in this city is to make drivers aware of entering the city and neighborhoods in their city. So better signage. And for us, it would be like, for example, maybe there could be a sign coming out of the tunnel, "Welcome to historic Murray Hill," on the big building as you come out of the tunnel. And finally, looping back to the shelter situation, overall, Murray Hill is overwhelmed with too many shelters. Our neighborhood is taking a beating and we can't keep up with it. Not to mention, it is changing the dynamic of historic Murray Hill. So where is the plan with these shelters? As we know it, we don't see a plan when they come up with these shelters. Who is managing the plan? That's a big deal. It's not working. Allow me to read a letter really quick. I know my time.
Yeah, let's finish with that.
My time's
Thank
up.
you. Well, I'm going to let you read the letter, as long as it's not the Gettysburg Address.
Yeah, it's a real quickie from the neighborhood, one of the neighborhood tenants on 30th and Lexington. And this is going back to having a voice in the neighborhood and what's been happening. So I'd like to make the community board aware that a planned homeless shelter is being implemented at the former Ramada Inn located at 161 Lexington Avenue at the corner of 30th. The residents of the surrounding blocks are concerned that this facility will put added stress on the neighborhood that is already home to the largest men's facility in Manhattan at Bellevue Hospital with over 800 beds. The new facility will have an estimated 100 beds for mentally disabled men. It's our concern that the added stress on the neighborhood will have an impact on raised levels of crime, public substance abuse, and vagrancy. Since the onset of the pandemic, this hotel has been used to temporarily house the homeless due to the COVID concerns. However, the conversation to a permanent shelter was never disclosed to the residents until the deal had already been struck, giving no opportunity to have an input from the residents that will be impacted. It's disheartening that city and city council representatives have moved forward without proper notification or allowed the public comment. As residents, we are not opposed to having this homeless or unhoused shelter. However, in light of the already existing shelters with a tree block radius of this new facility, the population ratio becomes unsustainable and there are not enough resources in the neighborhood to service all of these individuals.
Thank you.
And then that's
Yeah, and again, I did want you to certainly give you the soapbox to talk about everything and that was on the association's mind. You know, environment touches a lot of things. I think you understand environment can be interpreted differently. Some of the things that you had mentioned, clearly, we do have a homeless and housing committee. We do have a transportation committee and some other things. What I will throw up there, though, and I think it's always wonderful to see Sheena Kaufman's on here from the Parks Department. I think you had first was told it was the Parks Department, and now you're told it was not. Sheena, is tree guards, is that ever if it's outside of a park, is that ever a parks issue or responsibility, I should say?
Yes and no, but it doesn't fall under me. It actually is a little bigger than me. I spoke to Michael Ann about regarding this matter a couple of days ago, and I gave her the contacts to where to contact who will be responsible for that. So it's a process, and she's probably right. It's very difficult probably to manage all of the city agencies and get everyone together. It just doesn't fall under my reign. And at the time, I was there with my regional manager, and he was actually letting me know what needed to be done because it actually doesn't fall under us per se. So because it's outside of what we do in parks, but the trees are parks' responsibility, if that makes a little
So
sense.
the trees
really
are
the
responsibility, but not the maintenance of that.
Correct, of that. So you will have to,
construction.
so the construction area is, and whoever is, whatever is governed under, they're responsible for that. So usually at every construction site, there's some, the information is they're required to post it at each construction site. And on there, you will find all of the information to be able to make the contact with the person's that's running the construction facility. We don't give those permits out. My office doesn't. So it's the DOB, Department of Buildings. They have a lot to do with that. So their connection with the Park Department is just a requirement that would be placed around the trees to protect the tree. But it's actually the Department of Buildings who give out the permits and who are responsible for probably giving the fines out for people, for construction companies not able to maintain the area that they're working under. And when they leave the area, to take down the wood. So
Yeah, and I want to throw out there as well, and Michael Ann, you should know this, we do have an address with the district office. It's for service requests. So if you feel that something needs to be remedied, please, it's help at CB6 spelled CB and then 6 spelled out .org. I believe I have that right. Because that service request can also help gain you some traction. I do see Marty Barrett has his hand up, so I will give him the floor.
I was going to say what you said. The district office used to handle all issues in regards to street trees. I hate to put it into Jesus's lap, but the district manager tended to speak to somebody and get either trees planted or rotten trees pulled out. There was various things that was done out of the office. Two issues that not necessarily for here. There is a master plan for all facilities. This master plan includes hospitals, it includes fire stations, sanitation stations, homeless shelters. It includes everything. And in this master plan, they give a number rating in regards to the effect of a particular facility. And they try to keep the total numbers within an area pretty much even as far as the numbers are concerned throughout the city. So there is some planning. We used to get a book that indicated all the facilities in Manhattan and broken out. So this thing is probably online now. There was one other point, but anyway, there's a lot of resources that you could tap that is available.
Thank you, Marty. I see that Jesus does have his hand raised and he has the floor.
Thank you, Kevin. Oh, by the way, before you answer that question about where you're moving to, whatever you're typing can be seen by everyone. Just keep that in mind.
That's okay. You can know where I'm living. I'm moving to 14th Street,
Okay.
but in the district.
Yes.
Fairly
Second,
in the district.
since Ms. Rowe did mention a particular site, 161 Lexington Avenue, we have been hearing from community members about that site. So we had a conversation with the operator who currently runs a temporary shelter out of that site. We've spoken with them and they confirmed to us that they have no plans to open any kind of shelter there. In fact, they will be winding down their operations by the end of the year, and then they will be vacating the premises. We've heard a lot of speculation about what might be happening there, but so we went out and got it from the horse's mouth. And so again, they will be winding down their operations by the end of the year. The gentlemen that are currently being sheltered there will be returning to their normal shelters, and the operator will be premises entirely at that time. Thank you.
Hopefully that's, you can certainly relay that information, Michael, and hopefully to all the other concerned parties, help us spread that word.
And it was in the newsletter that just came out a couple of days ago. So for those community members who are subscribed, it was in the community update section of our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, please go to our website right at the homepage and subscribe. It's got lots of information that's very useful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesus. If there are any other questions of the committee, this would be the time to ask them. Not seeing any other hands. We will see if there's any committee, I should say, Q&As, the place where I was going to type my new address. So I don't see any there, so we can move on. But I do want to thank Michael and the association and want them to know that this committee welcomes any and all future outreach by the association on any of its community concerns. We're here to help amplify your voice. We also ask committee members to pass along any suggestions after the meeting on those community groups you would like to see given the floor in this committee. Because I actually saw her on the registration, perhaps Phyllis Mangles is interested in being our next special association guest at next month's meeting. We can do that after the meeting. She would be discussing Stuyvesant Square. Just like Phyllis, Michael Ann, I can hear and feel your passion. So thank you for doing what you do and joining us tonight. You're certainly welcome to stick around if you'd like.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just wanted to mention that I do have a walk around with Karen Flores from the construction board. I forget exactly her title. You might know it, but next week I walk around with her as well.
That's great. And, you know, it's interesting. A few months ago, we had a discussion about the possibility of proposing a czar of the public realm. This is something that Boston has done and London and other cities have done. And it seems like that's the type of group that would be able to sort out when it seems like the tree is one agency, but the surrounding of the tree, the wood is another agency, and the transportation is involved in there too. It just seems like everybody's got their hand in the tree, so to speak. Yeah, Marty, go ahead.
It's a job for the advocate. You know, call up Jamon Williams's office, and that's what they're supposed to be doing, sorting out what different agencies are not getting together. You know, it might give them something to do that will help the neighborhood that we would finally understand.
All right, no political.
No. I just remember Mark Green did a great job in that job. He was the first.
Another political statement. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
But good. It's always good to get the history, even if it's tinged. Okay. We are going to, again, just remind you that we'd like to have any suggestions on any other community groups. There's a lot of them. And I think we should also keep a record or a guide of what groups are in the community, many of them. Now, in line with this, and as we look forward to possible resolutions down the road, I'd like to know what environmental needs we think should be candidates for improvement. I think the passage of this proposal could really change the landscape, pun intended. For example, some outside our district have an issue with the leaf blower. Actually, some observers call it the devil's hair dryer. But it's not just the noise. It's also the fact that running a leaf blower for 30 minutes creates more emissions than driving a F-150 pickup truck 3,800 miles. That's from the esteemed journalist James Fallows, who also noted that about 1/3 of the gasoline that goes into the sort of engine is spewed out unburned in an aerosol mixed with oil in the exhaust. So, that's just an example. I'm not going to put the committee on a spot now, but I think that we should be able to look at how we want to change for the positive, the environment in our community. And we have, I think, some real leverage to affect change. So this is going to be a discussion that I certainly am not going to let go. And I urge you, even offline, to make any mention to me of what you would like to see tackled in the environment area. Okay, I think we can go on to agenda item 3. It's the review of progress of the St. Martin Park Garden Public Pilot Program. Now, in our last monthly meeting, we heard about the unlocking of the St. Martin Park lawn and garden to the general public for the first time this century. And as I had mentioned at the full CB6 board meeting last month, the garden was opened on October 8th. We then received many nice words and photos from community residents of their enjoyment of this space, which again is the most ample public green space in the East 30s. Now, the Manhattan Parks Commissioner's Office then sent along a sign that reported it plans to put up. Alexandra, do we have that sign handy to put up? I don't believe it's up
Yes.
yet. I certainly, and Alexandra, I think you were by there today. I don't know if you saw it. This was something that was sent almost a month ago. So I don't know why it's not up yet, but there we go. Now, this brings up another issue, and that's about hours. We've had reports that days the garden should be open, the garden is closed. In fact, one example is today. We had observers, I should say, that they were there this morning and also afternoon who reported that the garden gate was locked. And as you can see, the garden should be open on Wednesdays. And there was 0 precipitation reported yesterday and today. So again, I'm going to put Sheena Kaufman on the spot here, not on the spot, but I know it might be something, another decision made outside of her orbit. But Sheena, do you know why this is happening? And this is not the first time today, believe me.
I don't know why it's happening, but I have discussed this earlier with my supervisors on site, that's at St. Martin's. We're gonna actually lock the chain, keep it open, but lock the chain to the back so we can notice that it's open. And think I'm gonna change the locks so we can to see if someone else is having a key or something of that nature to the area. It did rain 2 days ago, so after it rained, we didn't open it the next day. But prior to that, the garden has been open. We have an opening hours. We start opening up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We open up the bathrooms and we open up the park starting at 6. And that's a part of our opening. Because that's the site that our staff report to in the morning. So the bathrooms are open, and so does the garden on the days that, that's mentioned here. So I'm not sure what's going on. The days that I've been there have been people utilizing it, especially on the nice sunny days. I don't know, I'm not standing there and counting the people, but I've seen people inside the garden. So I don't know what's happening. So I've already put everybody on notice to keep a watch out for anything, to make sure that the garden is open, because that's what we said we were going to do. But I did have the notices up there, and I did 2 more signs yesterday so I can post back up on the gate. So
Well, that's great. So this sign that we're seeing now, I hate to think that it was taken down by somebody outside the parks, but it
I
was
made
up at
4
some point.
signs.
Wow.
I made 4 signs and it's
Oh,
not
waiting for
there right.
signs. Sorry. Okay, you're waiting for signs.
No, I made 4 signs and 2 were put up there, and I have
Oh.
2 extra in the office there. And when I went yesterday, it was not there. So we're going to put the other 2 that I have back on the fence because it was there initially.
Meaning it was taken.
Something
stolen,
like
if you
that.
will. Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah.
So we're going to keep an eye out on the signage to make sure that it stays in place.
Great, thank you. It's just the reason, obviously, people like this morning, especially kids before school and after school, there's almost, they're programmed now to think that it's going to be open when it said it was going to be open. So if we trust that you will certainly follow up with that, and we appreciate that.
Will do.
Okay, is there any committee questions on this, and certainly any members of the public that have questions to pose, you can do so through Q&A. I believe there's one. Alexandra, can you help me? Oh, here we go. Actually, I can read this. Amy, you have a couple of comments. It says, I would like to know, since the garden is being opened, is there a new allotment for a gardener? And I do have something to say about that, but of course, Sheena is here. The other question is, who is currently doing the extra stress on the garden? The quick answer, at least from me, would be there's extra stress because we're now allowing the general public access. So there'll be more feet in there, especially with kids after school. Sheena, do you know if there's a new allotment that's been made for a gardener that will be designated for that, or it will be maintained by the existing supervisor and any other personnel?
It will be maintained by the existing gardeners that we have within the district. So whatever, if we have to borrow from Stuyvesant, or we have to borrow from Carl Schultz from District 8 is a sector. If we have to, jump in with our other gardeners that work out of Randall's Island. But there's no permanent gardener that's going to be set there so far. I haven't heard anything. So
Okay.
if it does come about that we're able to do so, at this time, we're not able to hire anyone.
Okay, thank you. And I was going to mention, I would say something about this. The committee has been in touch with Partnership for Parks, more specifically the Senior Outreach Coordinator for Manhattan. Alexandra, do we know if Ashley is with us tonight? We could certainly give her the floor to say a few words.
I don't see Ashley in the attendance.
It's okay. She didn't know if she could make it. She's coordinating a meeting, so everybody knows, for next week for anyone interested in being a leader of a Friends of St. Vartan or a similar name group. We have determined that the previous Friends of St. Vartan is no longer active, in part, as mentioned at the last meeting, because of the death of its leader. Part of the discussion for the meeting slated for next week will be what Partnership for Parks could potentially do to provide support. And this may go towards helping with a gardener, possibly compensation. I'm not going to speak for Partnership for Parks, but they're going to see what they can do to provide support to this group. So the meeting will address a vision for the group, and we will also discuss how we will assemble this group and its leadership, and how volunteers will be able to make the garden greater for the public. So hopefully this will address a lot of the concerns that may be there. I do see some more Q&A, so I will read them. Callie Harris, why is the garden closed Mondays and Tuesdays? Great question. Closed Mondays and Tuesdays. My understanding is that it would be open 7 days a week. My understanding too, but gardens need rest. Again, going to lean on Sheena on this to maybe explain, but it's same with places like Madison Square. They have rest days, correct, Sheena?
Yep, correct. You're absolutely correct.
Okay, so I think that they're trying to, parks are trying to keep it open as much as they can, but they also want to make sure that the grass
Screen.
Continues to thrive. Okay. Hopefully that answered your question. Callie, we have one from Elisa DeVito. Says at the last meeting, you mentioned wanting to learn the history of the garden and hear from the various stakeholders involved. We, the families of the St. Farton Preschool / Friends of St. Farton Park, which we said is inactive, are still looking forward to doing so and to have the opportunity to expand on our suggestions previously shared with you and Parks upper management. In the meantime, can you tell us why so many plants were ripped out of the garden and what your thoughts / plans are to remedy the barren state of the garden, including the mold issue that developed from the mulch that was thrown down, to help restore the floral sanctuary while making it more accessible to the community. I will say that speaking with all due respect to those that did do the mulching, I think to say that it was thrown down is disrespectful of the intricate work that they did on that mulching. But I think this is kind of directed at you, Sheena. Do you want to pick up on any of that?
Well, the horticulture team that came there to give the revitalization to the lawn area, they're very skilled. They're all gardeners that came there. So I don't know if they, did anything in a negative way. They try to get it, together, so we can have a great opening day for, when we decided to open it. So I don't know if that was, I will characterize it as they did something wrong by pulling things out. They all are gardeners that came there the day before it opened to make sure that the place looked good and decent. So for any plans moving forward, well, we're gonna have that meeting with partnership to try to come up with a group for St. Martin's, and we're going to make sure that we try to form a good committee so we can work together so we can keep the garden up. And that's in forming that committee, we're going to decide with the Parks Department and the group on what we would like to do to keep up with the garden area so that everyone could still use it and it looks pretty and nice for everybody to come by to see. So I'm looking forward to that. Ashley did reach out to me. She's just waiting to get all parties involved, and we are meeting. We decide on how to move forward in a better way.
Absolutely. And let me give you Ashley, and Ashley did mention again at Partnership for Parks, if anybody is interested in joining the leadership or the visionary team for a Friends of type group for the garden and the park, not just the garden, but the entire park, you should email her so that you can hopefully be on that call next week. I know if your schedule's open, she'll put you on. Maybe we can type it into the, here we go. Well, I'll say it out loud too. It's Ashley, ASHLEY dot her last name, which is KUENNEKE at parks.nyc.gov. And we'll try to put that in the chat as well. But you should reach out to her because this is a big opportunity for anybody who wants to see the garden continue to improve. And I think it is worth, because I happened to be there the night before and the day of the opening. I will echo Sheena's thoughts that the gardeners took, it was emotional and they took this very seriously. Again, and to say things threw down the mulch, I'm repeating myself, but I don't think that's fair to them. Is there any other question? Oh, there is. Amy writes, typo, sorry, there will be more stress on the garden with the new use. Toddlers have been roaming safely up to the new rules being implemented. How can you safely guarantee toddler usage? And then she writes, how will committees be formed? Email who? Well, we just mentioned that. Hopefully, Amy, that answers your questions. Hope you can be part of that discussion with Ashley next week. We will move on.
Kevin, also Anne has her hand raised.
Oh, sorry. Anne Seligman, you have the floor.
Great. Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Okay. So I just had a couple of thoughts about a few of these issues. Starting with the rainfall flooding issues. On the transportation committee kind of rep on that. And I've started doing some research on it. And, you know, one of the things that's really interesting is that there are both technical solutions in terms of slowing down absorption and stuff like that. But there's also a lot of social things. Some other cities have formal, and New York has in places informal, kind of adopt a storm drain group. So, you know, that's one element. If we can keep drains cleared and keep flow going, that reduces. The other thing is, um, there's public education that can happen in terms of things like if it's raining really hard, don't run your dishwasher. Like, don't take a shower. You know, reduce the amount of flow that's going in. And it sounds like a really small thing, but you know, other places have seen a real impact. And I'm just wondering if the community groups might be interested in helping kind of if either of those things are things we decide we kind of wanted to do going forward. Um, that was kind of one thing. Michael Ann, I'm really happy to see you nodding because that's a good thing.
Right, and that's
Um,
exactly, Anne, what we're looking for is these type of subjects that we can take on and really learn more about, and really
yeah.
become advocates in a way for those causes. Thank
And
you.
I think we actually have a list of community groups. I don't know, Alexandra, or you know, it might be worth checking because I feel like I saw one like years ago, which of course would need to be updated. But you know, we're not starting from nothing.
Oh, yes, and
So
I didn't, sorry if I implied that we were. I think I've seen a couple, but obviously Friends of St. Martin is a perfect example of one that is now an
right,
orphaned Friends of group.
right.
So that would not make the cut of a new guide.
And my last comment is about the leaf blowers, which I agree. Like they just make me crazy, especially when the leaf blower right outside my window starts at 8 a.m. and I am a late riser. um, but you know, from my understanding, there's nothing sort of legal that can be done. They are completely legal in the city. Part of my irritation with them is that I notice in this neighborhood, people just they blow the leaves from in front of one building to in front of another building, and then it gets blown back, you know, and it's like they don't if they don't pick up the leaves, it doesn't matter. So yeah, anything that my understanding is there's not really a lot that can be done about it if it's during reasonable hours, but yeah,
But I know
it's
that the conservancies, I don't, I don't know if Parks, has anything to say on this, but I know that the conservancies, some have taken it on as an issue. So, can something be done? Well, certainly the conservancies can make sure that they don't allow it to happen, in spaces that, Parks agrees. I don't know how much, Sheena, do you use leaf blowers in any of the parks in the district?
We do. We're trying to transition over to the electric blowers, where they're they're a little more expensive, and they're much quieter than the gas blowers. They just take a longer time than because they're electric, and it just doesn't have the power like the gas blowers do. The gas blowers are much more effective, but the environment wise, the electric ones are better. So we do have some or in other areas that we're trying out. They're just extremely heavy because of the battery. Carrying that in your hand, or on your back, can wear on you for a while. But they're much quieter than the other blowers. And
Well,
there is a time limit that it's supposed to be. Parks have a time limit. We can't start the blowers during the weekend till 8 o'clock and on the weekends 9. And I'm assuming that's everywhere, but I know that's parks. What we do. Unless it's like something emergency or something, which I can't think of an emergency to take place in parks.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'm looking in chat. I think there are a couple of things here. Again, Callie Harris, who we heard from earlier, says, I pass the park every day around 9 a.m. The gates have been locked most mornings for the past 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, this is just reflective of what we've already said. We do know that it's supposed to be closed only 2 days per week. So thank you for reminding us of that. I think that's it for any public questions or committee questions. Let's look in Q&A one more time. Nothing there. Agenda item number 4 is discussion of city-owned and privately owned public space unavailable for public use in Community District 6. Just so everybody knows, research investigation continue on a couple of these places, but no new change in status to report yet. I've asked this on a couple other initiatives. If there are any committee member interested in being a deputy with me on this ongoing work, designated by its operators as public space, but that have been in the past, including United Nations North Lawn and Garden and Kipsay Towers ample green space. In addition, some progress has been made on the ongoing investigation into the so-called private Gramercy Park. We should have an update on that in the next meeting. So we're going to move on from that unless there's any questions or any new places that we need to know of that you think should be open to the public but are not. Another list we should keep. Well, we do have a list, but I mean, we should keep a history of the places that were closed and that have been open either to the work of this committee or electeds or elsewhere. I'm going to move on to agenda item 5. Sheena Kaufman, we've already introduced. We'll introduce her again. She has a report from the Department of Parks and Recreation. Sheena, it's all yours.
Hello. So getting back to the garden, we're going to monitor the garden. And as we're talking, I'm emailing on my phone. So to make sure that the garden is open on the days that's stated, and we're going to put the signs back. I think you asked me about the fencing. I spoke with Steve, and there's no update on the fencing so far. He's going to touch base and get back to me. It's just so far, I said there's no update on this. So as soon as I get any information on the fence, I'm going to touch base with you if it comes before the next community board meeting. Then there was, I think, Jesus had asked me about the 34th Street property. I guess that's along the first, I could be wrong about the address, first of the FDR Drive.
Yeah.
There's some property.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I spoke to Steve about that, and he actually emailed EDC, because before we can take on any extra property, we have to make sure that the property is sound, and we're not getting something that's going to cost us more, in the coming future. So he said he's going to send them. He's going to check on the bulkhead of the property to see if we are able to take it on. And once he gets that report back, then we can be able to make a decision if Parks is going to acquire that property.
Do we have a sense of when that might be, when we might get a decision?
I don't know. He emailed them again, but to see when they're gonna do the inspection of the property, but, he has to wait on them to do so.
Okay. All right, so it could be weeks, months, or we really don't know.
I don't know. I really don't know. And as soon as he gives me the word back, I will definitely touch base if it's before the meeting, for the next meeting. So we've been having some discussions about Abano playground. Someone is coming to the playground and putting their own chain and lock. So we had to remove it the day before yesterday. I guess they're trying to keep some people out of it, but locking the park earlier than it's supposed to be, we can't allow that to happen. So we are, anyone that's going there prior to the closing hours, we're gonna have to remove the locks and chain from there.
Yeah, and there have been at least one issue in the past, as you might be aware of, at Augusta St. Gaudens, where somebody was locked inside the gate and had to climb their way out. It was I think 65-year-old gentleman. So when people do that, it's wrong, but it's also wrong because they could potentially put people's life at danger, especially in cold weather if they're locked in. So,
well, that when NYPD let the person out, but they got into the park through the side gate. So I was
you're talking about St. Gaudens, the St. Gaudens last year?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
not last year. This was a couple of days. This was a couple of days ago.
Oh, no, this is another one I was talking about. I actually spoke with a gentleman who had to climb over the iron gate at St. Gaudens, and he was none too happy.
Well, this one got in through the side and then called the fire department, and the fire department had to break the lock because I got the call in the middle of the night. But he got in through the side. So it was just.
But doesn't Park still check? Don't they sweep?
Yeah, we check, but some people climb the fence. Some people, they do all types of things to get into they cut the fences open to get in, and then when they want to get out the way they want to get out, whatever they were doing.
Okay, so they could
potentially say that they got locked in. We monitor every night. We take down the time we arrive to the park and the time we leave, and the staff is there, 2 people per area to go and check the gates before locking. So we do that very diligently.
Got you.
And
thank you. Sorry to interrupt, Sheena. Go ahead.
And other than that, I have nothing. Nothing else. If anyone has any questions, I'll take.
Okay, I do want to jump in. We did have another comment that was based on the garden. I want to make sure this is heard. This is from Lisa DeVito, who we heard from earlier. She mentioned my comment in Q&A seems was missed. To be clear, there are still members of Friends of St. Martin Park active. This is good news, especially the preschool families, as we are affiliated with the Friends of group. And we would love the opportunity as a community group to present to the community board as well. Well, again, the person that we were the number 2 in charge and who we were told would then be in charge of the Friends of was Beryl Rentoff. I don't know, Elisa, if Beryl is still, because we've tried her even through one person who's friend over a month on East 22nd, in finding her there anywhere. We've done pretty diligent in trying to track down any. And again, there's a meeting next week. Ashley, you should be in on that, and mention that there's already a Friends of group active. Again, if you're an officer or somebody else is, that would be a time to bring it up. We're looking for a group of the future. So maybe it's people that are involved in Friends of and others as well. So please, I hope you can be part of that meeting with Ashley. I did want to read a comment. I don't know if she's on. Cheryl Arluck had written to the committee. And if you see her name, Alexandra, we certainly can give her the floor. She tried to speak at the last meeting, I believe. There's Cheryl. Cheryl, I think this is about the possibility of fixing the ground at St. Martin's Park. where handball is played. I'm sure you can articulate it better than I can. You want to go ahead? If you unmute, I think you have the floor. And I want Sheena to hear this too. This is about, I believe, some work that needs to be done in the handball area.
Can you hear me now? Yes, I can
Yes,
see.
go ahead, sure.
Okay. So I have to say St. Martin Park, 75% of it looks beautiful. The new garden is beautiful. The AstroTurf where the kids play is beautiful. And the basketball courts are really nice. But all the handball courts are all torn up. And it would be really terrific if we could get it resurfaced. They chew up the balls. They're all cracked. The balls fly off in all different directions when you play. You know, when you even the tennis, even the people that play against the wall. We play pickleball, but for the tennis players or the handball players, the concrete is all chewed up. Where the big blocks join one another. There's pitting. There's rubber. So I was just hoping that, I mean, there's a lot of things I hope for, but I'm working on just getting it resurfaced if there's any possibility, much like the basketball courts, you know, have a surface specific for basketball. If we could have a surface that's specific for tennis, handball, pickleball, and then you know, we could paint the courts or they could just, or you guys could paint the courts, whatever, because painting them for pickleball would not interfere with anybody playing up against the wall. Because it's much like a tennis court, as you probably know, Sheena.
Right. Well, well, I can look into see if it's anything in the, you know, coming up for St. Martin's handball courts. I haven't heard of anything, but it's not to say that it's not on the agenda for parks. I can look into that. I can, you know, touch base with Steve and let you know at the next meeting.
Well, is it possible to put it on the agenda so that maybe St. Martin's could be 100% done?
Well, it requires funding, and right. At this moment in time, I don't know if any funding was allocated for the handball courts at St. Martin's. So I will have to look into that to see. And I'll let Steve know that that's what, you know, you all would like to happen at St. Martin's.
Right.
But I will have to look into it because I don't know. I just got here like September the 27th. So okay. I don't know the needs of and what was put out there prior. Usually the needs are done sometime in early September. So it could have went on the needs for this district. I'm not quite sure, but I'll ask them to see if it was there. And if it's there, I'll let you know if it's coming up, if okay. something is put in place for it.
But if not, maybe we could put it on the agenda for the next time.
But yeah, so, I can ask them.
Get funding for it. That I mean, right.
Yep, I can ask them, and I will see if we can add that to the needs for the next time.
Okay, great. That would be great. I mean, we bring our own nets and everything, which weigh 25, 35 pounds. We drag those.
Well, the other thing is, I don't want to go into discussion. We went into it on the budget request, but the other thing, I know there's been talk about having a shed designated so you can lock that equipment and not have to carry it back and forth if there's space for a shed or a locker. Marty Barrett has his hand raised. Marty, you have the floor.
Yeah, we should add that to our budget priorities for the next list.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Pickleball is heavy usage. And I'm not, you know, there's sort of handball usage as well, but we're very aware and want to keep the pickleball community healthy and happy.
If I could just only say one more thing. This past weekend, we had a Halloween tournament for kids.
On the open street on East 36th.
No. In St.
Oh, in the park too. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, because sometimes I play with 12-year-old kids.
Yes, absolutely. It's a multi-generation
right.
sport of a lifetime.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Cheryl.
And
Very
also,
brief.
one last thing, why is the side entrance to Albano locked across from the firehouse? Sheena.
I'm going to assume the reason why it's there is to actually better maintain the kids and not have other individuals come in from that way and not being able to.
Well, but then you could.
The street is actually right there, and a lot of times the street is actually very close to the gate. And if kids are in there, because a lot of people do not. The usage of the park is not great, and a lot of people will not close the gate behind it. And to open that side, to me, will be more of a danger than anything. And that's just inviting more trouble, and we're trying to get away from that, because then they could just come through the side and do what they want to do and not be seen through the, coming in the main gate. And if the kids coming in and play in the area and they don't close the gate behind them, and the kid run out to the street, it's just, to me, it would cause more of a hassle than anything. If there was a bigger street, then we can put a gate so they won't get to the other gate. But it's not. It's just too close at this point in time, and I just think it's a danger.
Yeah, especially with the fire department there on emergencies sometimes. Understood. Cheryl, thank you.
Thank you.
Marty, go ahead.
There used to be an active Friends of Albano Park group. You had mentioned that the gate was locked and you don't know who did it. It may have been that group. It may have been from the firehouse.
It wasn't the firehouse. We talked. We spoke with them before we made any. Before we cut, and they said they did not do that.
Yeah, but there was an active group. Also, the Albano Republican Club, which is partly where the name came from, used to support the park, their street fairs, and so maybe somebody from that organization took it upon themselves to lock it because they had felt that it was unsafe. So that's another avenue.
Yeah, it didn't. If you can reach out to them or know who they are, they can reach out to me, then we can have a discussion. But we just don't know, and we don't want to alienate anyone else by closing the park earlier than it's supposed to. We already shut down the time. The commissioner gave us time to close it prior to that. I don't want to shorten the hours even more.
Yeah. And
then we have more problems.
Sorry, did the signage that you were talking about last meeting about children must be accompanied by an adult, has that gone up?
They have been, they were put up on both sides. They are there.
Great.
And we're monitoring that, and I have more signs if they damage it. Yes, we did.
Okay,
we did
great.
Put them up.
And you mentioned the Friends of group, Marty, and I just wanted to, I think Partnership for Parks is a wonderful operation. They can do a lot. I think some of you remember when we put basketball nets on all the rims in the district that had naked or damaged rims. It was Ashley. She's been promoted now. She's basically running Manhattan. But back then, she was the one that really got things going for us to get the approval to put those up. And when we talk about a Friends of group, I know that Elisa DeVito had spoken about there's still a semblance, or maybe more than a semblance, of a Friends of St. Martin Park. We're talking about a 50C for a more
frozen
formal
there.
they could, a couple guards.
You're frozen.
So next on the agenda. Oh, sorry. Is there somebody else question?
Yeah, Kevin, you're freezing a lot, so you may want to go off your video screen for a minute and go back on.
I'm going to do that. Thank you. I didn't know that.
Sometimes it works.
So you only heard half of what I said? Maybe that's a good thing.
Maybe a quarter.
Oh, that bad? Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Hold on. Is that better?
Yes.
Better like this or like this? Oh, now I got my business attire.
Very dramatic. We like it.
Yeah.
Switch over. Yeah, now I'm out of my business
I'll vote for you.
after her. Thank you. Thank you, Marty. Okay, agenda item number 6 is the update of designated landmarks and historical districts in CB6 resource guide. I was working on an update. I've actually been preparing on something that we heard recently on landmark preservation. It was about a certificate of appropriateness for an East 38th Street brownstone. I think we remember. So I just wanted to see what things have been designated as landmarks in our district. And then I was happy to hear that work had previously been done on a resource guide for the district, not just on landmarks, but historical districts. Alexandra, I see on this list that Letty Simon is attending this meeting. I don't want to put her on the spot, but I believe she was the one who made the original guide happen. Perhaps she can give us some background before I have to look into finding someone to serve as a deputy on this research project. Letty, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay. I prepared that must have been a couple of years ago because we didn't have one and it was a labor of love. I decided to do that. And it just, at this point, I think a few years have passed and that needs to be updated. And also when you mentioned POPs, I was muted and I didn't realize again in my haste that I should have done Q&A, but I wanted to know that's another document that I prepared as a labor of love for the board. And I just was curious to know what your plans are in terms of updating that or possibly adding the city-owned public spaces, which I call COPs and POPs.
Oh, sounds like a buddy movie.
Right. So that's why I'm here. It caught my attention.
Thank you, Letty. It's nice to have that background and confirmation of your work on that. So thank you for that work. And I did look at a list of POPs, and I know that the previous chair of the committee, Pam, had taken your embryonic work and ran with it. So I had looked at that list and looked into what we could possibly do. Some I think we were effective in doing. But yeah, I'd love to see that updated. And that's one of the things I was thinking of, having somebody on committee that could, update that research. And
I nominate Letty Simon.
Oh, she's not on committee though. Am I allowed to do that?
I'm not on the committee.
Put her on.
I can't. I don't have power.
Well, ask Kyle.
I will ask
Letty
Kyle.
did such an amazing job. I think that
can be an offline deal. If not, I don't know if I can assign a ad hoc. I don't know. I'm getting above my pay grade here.
I just ask Kyle tomorrow, and then I think Jesus, right? We can just ask Kyle, and then we can appoint. We can appoint you officially.
Yeah. By the way, that was a figure of speech. We all are unpaid, just in case anybody was thinking that.
Right.
I think Kyle's taking a look at the numbers on the committees. Some of them have gotten a little top heavy, including parks, because a lot of people want to be on parks.
Because of the cool kids.
Yes.
Because Mark used to be chair. That's why.
So yeah, he was trying to sort of redirect folks to committees that don't have quite the numbers that parks do. But if it never hurts to ask.
All right. Well, I'll let the hires up do that. We're just a little committee that trying to do our job. Okay, but thank you, Letty. I would love to have you be that person.
Well, let's see what happens then. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay,
I'll back you up, Kevin.
All right. Thank you, Mark. And for those that are uninitiated, I always feel like I have to do POPs does stand for privately owned public space. So thank you. The reason I said that, 'cause I was my first meeting, I didn't know what POPs was. Maybe there's one person as dumb as I am out there. Okay. We are going to circle back to our last, actually, we have a couple of agenda items till next, nothing breaking news related. We will go into agenda item number 8, old or new business. If any member of this committee has any old or new business, please raise your hand or send us a note through Q&A.
Kevin, there do appear to be quite a few questions in the Q&A that have yet to be addressed.
Oh, okay. Let me try to pop that up. That's chat, so that's not going to help. Oh, man. Let's go back.
There are also two hand raised.
Again, I'm clicking on Q&A. This happens sometimes.
Okay, then Alex and I will help you by reciting them.
Thank you.
Alex, will you do so, please?
Yes.
Now they came up, sorry, but go ahead. I either one.
So the first comment is from Antonella, who says, would be wonderful to have a meeting with Kevin and his team, as well as the St. Martin family / people historically involved together. Please advise on how to organize this. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, I would say, Antonella, and I know you're very involved, and your mom had been as a preschool director for many years. We would love to have you in that meeting with Partnership for Parks next week, maybe as a start. I'm always available. If you want to have a one-on-one, it's kevokeefe@gmail.com. Yes, please reach out to me. I'm happy to meet. But I think maybe that next week's meeting would be the place to start. I see the one now. I'm seeing them. Elisa DeVito again. Thank you. Can parks advise status of the bathrooms at the playgrounds, particularly women's bathrooms at St. Martin's? I think, Sheena, wasn't this addressed?
Only the men's bathroom is open right now. The women's bathroom is being worked on. So we're gonna try to find out to see, how long it's gonna take for the women's bathroom to open up. But the men's bathroom should have been open today. They were both closed the last 2 days because they were doing some work on it. So I will have a status. The piping in the women's bathroom needs to be snaked out, and we were having some difficulty trying to get it, done. So we're gonna see how long it's going to take for that to happen. But the men's bathroom should have been open today.
Okay, great. Timely question. Thank you. Ryan O'Hanlon writes, on the topic of the St. Martin handball courts, is it possible to get more lighting there so people could play in the evenings? I believe it's going to be a funding question, but also that is some residential areas there as well. I think it would matter where the lights are being shined, what direction. I don't know if Sheena, if you have any other. Yeah,
is absolutely. We usually don't put lighting on handball courts, because of that. Because the lights that they would shine extremely bright in the residential area, and that would cause a lot of more problems than not. So, but if you look at all handball courts, there's no lighting on any handball court at all.
Okay.
Around the city.
Great. Mr. Matthew Bondi has raised his hand formally, so that's why we'll give him the floor.
Kevin. Anyway, I just wanted to let everybody know that we had a great Halloween party at Sutton Place Parks. It was put on by the Sutton Place Parks Conservancy, and we had, by some estimates, 1,000 people there. And that was last Sunday on Halloween. It was a really good time. It was nice to see all the kids come out and have a good time. We had Squizzle the Squirrel, DJing for everybody, and it was really nice. But my point with respect to the park is that some of you have been there, you've seen what a gem it is, but there's a big mouse problem there. Part of that is brought about because of the adjacent building who's also doing construction. This was an area that had been a backyard to a building, and then when the city realized that it was actually ours, there was an agreement made to split it and connect the two parks. And so the building got half and the city got half on the water. So now we have this beautiful park between 56th and 57th Street, but there's a big mouse problem there. And we also have the fencing, this really ugly chain link fencing that's been up forever on both 57th Street and 56th Street. And she now is kind of giving you some breathing room to settle in. but I'll start to follow up on this chain link fence business because it's been up for too long. It's long enough. The building can put up their spiky, beautiful black iron fence, and we can dispense with the chain link fence once and for all. So those two issues with respect to the park, the chain link fence and the mouse problem that we have over there. I just wanted to raise it.
The mouse problem, we put into bait. You can hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We put into bait the area, actually all of the areas there for them to come and bait. We'll see how that works out. The fencing part is a little new for me. I got to find out. I'll find out. Are they looking to replace it with something or just take it down?
But it's a temporary, it's a temporary measure for the building while they do their construction in the back. That's been ongoing for years now. So our park has been open for a year. Theirs isn't complete.
I see the fence.
Yeah.
I seen the fence. I was there. I seen the fence, and you're right. They're beautiful areas. But I will have to find out more before I can give you a definitive answer on what the city wants to do regarding this.
Well, they're not going to keep the chain link fences up. That's for sure. It's just a question about when they come down, really. I'm curious about. They're the building's fencing. It's One Sutton Place South who put that fencing up while they do their construction. So it's not a city fence. But I think the time has come to probably put their feet to the fire and say, all right, enough's enough. Let's resolve these chain link fences once and for all. So
okay, I'll get it. As you said it. I seen the chain link fence. I seen it. And
thank you so much.
Issue.
So I wrote it. I wrote it down so Steve can reach out to see if he can resolve this and when we're going to remove.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the board. It's nice to have you here. I know you've already been to our meetings, but I don't know that I've ever had the opportunity to say hello. But
I spoke to someone from your area. I just can't recall his name, and I think he was going away.
Was he the squirrel?
No. But he asked me she spoke to me about the rodent problem, and as soon as he spoke to me, I put in for them to bait the area. So I'm going to check up on the baiting of the area and see if they can do it a little more frequently. But right now we're a little short staffed because of the vaccine mandates, and most of our people are vaccinated. I just don't know every person that has been vaccinated. So I'm not quite sure on the area that I'm speaking about if their exterminators are vaccinated. But I'll reach out to our team to see if they can come back and do it quite frequently to help out.
That'd be great. Thanks a lot.
Question.
Yes, Mark.
You may be able to actually reach out to One Sutton Place South, the building, because they, I'm sure, have a very good exterminator. And if we have a problem in the park, they've got a problem in the building, which those people will not want to have in the building. So you might want to have somebody. I know Steve had spoken with them, or somebody at Parks spoke with them, through the whole process. So they probably have a contact there. But check with them and see what they're doing, and maybe you can coordinate. Because if there's rodents there in their building too, might help.
Thank you. Marty Barrett has hand raised. Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, when I was president, when I was living at Phipps, and I was president there as well as the Bellevue South Park, depended upon who was baiting. When the park was baiting, the rodents went into the building, and when the building was baiting, the rodents went into the park. So some of our issue may be because Sutton Place South is doing a good job of it. So
coordinate, bait them at the same time.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't see any more committee hands, so I did want to circle back. Callie Harris does have another comment or question. She writes, I'm wondering if the park staff have any responsibility to enforce park rules. I see people smoking and walking their dogs at St. Vartan's, but the staff doesn't address it. Should they?
No, we have our park enforcement to do that. So if you bring it to their attention, they can contact our park enforcement team. But our park staff, they should not be, they can ask, but we don't recommend, because sometimes they could get a little volatile and they are not, we don't want to put them in a position of, going back and forth with a parks patron, even though they're breaking the law. So it's probably best if they see it, or if you see it, or if anyone sees it, to bring it to the attention of the park staff and let the park staff handle it with our park enforcement team, because they have the right to, to put them out the park and notify NYPD, enforce the law. Our maintenance and operation team cannot, and they cannot really enforce that rule. But our park enforcement personnel can. So we don't want to put them in that predicament, because then it could get a little, crazy after a while. Most people, if you ask, they'll leave. Most people. But if we see this as a ongoing thing, then we'll make sure that park enforcement come around quite frequently to check, to make sure that these issues are being addressed. So if you think that my email is, I'll put my email in the chat. And if you feel that something is wrong, you email me and I'll, notify my parks enforcement team and, try to get them, they're quite orphaned. I'm going to reach out to them anyway to let them know about your complaint. But if you see it at the time, I advise just not to say anything. Just email me and I'll get my team, get the park enforcement there.
Thank you very much.
I'm just going to try to add my email. I'm going to try to add my email. I don't know if how to do it here. I'm on another computer, so I'm trying to figure it out.
We can type it in as
Okay.
well.
Okay. Thank you.
Jesus typed in Ashley's email address earlier, so we can add that as well.
Okay, thanks.
And then let's see. I think that's it. Unless any other.
Kevin,
go ahead.
Phyllis Mangles has her hand up.
Oh, hi, Phyllis. Go ahead. You have the floor. I didn't know if you were listening earlier, but we would like to formally invite you to next month's meeting to be our special association guest.
Yes, and I wanted to thank you for the invitation, and I will discuss it with the board and would definitely like to participate. A couple of other things I just wanted to touch base on, going back to when I spoke at the September meeting. There were some issues and some of them have been resolved. An update on the Park House. They did come yesterday to start work on the Park House. There was major damage on the inside of the Park House. The ceilings and everything were peeling because there was flooding on the roof. So a question for Sheena. Steve Simon, after that meeting, because he was in attendance at that meeting, he said it would be done by the beginning of November. Now he did update me the other day and said it would be started this week, which they did. They came yesterday. They were there till a little after noon. They didn't come today. So Sheena, do you have any idea how long this process is going to take to get the Park House open so the staff will be able to use it before the real cold weather comes in?
No, I don't have a real update on it. I overheard them speaking of it, and they have to have some, they're looking to have some engineers come check it out to make sure that the building is sound enough to be able to be repaired. And that's about the short end of it that I got from the conversation. So I don't know, and that's probably the next thing they're going to do before they can even start work on it, to make sure, to ensure that they're able to do the work that's needed to be done there.
Well, they did come yesterday and started work in one side of the Park House. I think they were scraping the ceiling because the door was open and I could see all the plaster on the ground from the outside.
I actually heard this today, sometime this around 11-ish or something. So I'm not quite sure the other part of the status of that. I'll probably have a better understanding by next week of what is going to be needed to be done to the building, because they're looking to, I know they're looking to make the necessary repairs to it. They are looking to make sure that gets done.
Okay, and the other thing was the rat issue that we have in the park. And they did come and bait on October 7th and 8th, both the east and the west side of the park, and they found close to 300 rat holes. So I want to know if there's a follow-up visit scheduled for Stuyvesant, because obviously with that many rat holes, one visit isn't going to do the trick. So do you know if there's another planned visit by the exterminators?
Well, I have informed all of the supervisor, because we have a rodent problem throughout the city. And a lot of times it's in our parks because there's a lot of food that's in our parks. So I've informed all of the supervisors to make sure that they put in for the exterminator to bait the area, at least to try to get it at least once or twice a month, because there is a shortage in staff at this moment. I don't know how often, and we have a few exterminators, but that takes care of the whole borough of Manhattan. So it's quite a 300 rodent holes is a lot. You have to be there. You have to be there all day to really kind of manage that. You will have to actually be there almost every week in order to be able to address that, issue with the rodents. So, and I don't know that if we have the staffing to be able to have someone there every week to do that. But I'll look into it. I'll look into it, see if they can come, a little more than once a month. Maybe they can come, twice or 3 times a month, if possible.
Okay, so you can just check and see if there's anything scheduled as of now, because they, it's a month since they were there.
I will look into it to see at this time right now with the vaccine thing. I'm a little unsure on the staffing at that particular with that particular team, but I'll look into to see what we can do to to try to help Stuyvesant out, because it is a lot of that's a lot of rodent holes.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you. And thank you, Sheena. I appreciate it. We're about to wind down here. I see, Ann Sullivan was just pointing out that the last iteration of the POP survey, she writes, involved a lot of folks. Letty put together a list and we each took 5 or so to reality check. That's good. I'm glad that there's already a blueprint for getting this revised and done. I think that's it, except Ann still wants my new address. We'll have to do that in another forum. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you,
Second.
Anton. And Mark, I think you tied. So to both of you, thank you. We don't need a second. And I will point out that seeing no further business, the meeting is adjourned at 8:31 p.m. Alexander will end the live stream both via the Zoom app and on the YouTube back end. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye, everyone.